So you want to move to Maine, or at least you're thinking about it. I don't blame you. We did it, and we did it 4.5 years ago. How much has property gone up since then? 50%, according to Google searching. Just somewhere around 50%, and for good reason. Because for one, people wanted to get away to a remote area during a time when COVID was an issue. You could work from home. This is vacation land for a reason. I mean, it is a vacation destination. Look this way, folks. That's the Atlantic Ocean, and that's low tide. It's gorgeous. No matter where you live, unless you're living in a big city like Portland or Augusta or Bangor. And I'm from the West Coast. None of these cities are really truly big cities. You just don't have the congestion. And again, unless you're living in one of the cities and or you have neighbors, we choose to live a little bit more remotely than the average person. We always have. Okay, what can you do in the state of Maine? Jobs are not always plentiful. It depends what part of the state of Maine you're moving to. So hopefully you have something in mind here. If you're retiring here, even then, the cost of living here is high. If you're not living in the city, if you're living off the grid or even on the grid, but you live in one of the smaller towns, your food's going to cost so much more than you've ever expected, especially if you come from a state like California, where the fresh fruits and vegetables were so plentiful, and we thought the cost of living was high there. Oh my gosh. No, not really. Not in comparison to some areas in Maine. Here we've changed our lifestyle completely to where now, when it comes to getting our meat, we order or raise our meat. We order a half a pig at a time, or we get a half a cow, which is harder to come by actually in the state of Maine. So there are places that we can have food sent to us. We raise a garden. We actually have 2 areas of a garden, and you guys have seen this before. But it is limited as to what you can grow here because it's so seasonal. It's June, and I'm in a long sleeve, and it's not because of the mosquitoes, which, by the way, are plentiful. You've got mayflies that bite you like crazy, and then you've got the mosquitoes. There are no poisonous snakes, if that helps. That helps me. I still love it here. I love this place. It's got a strong sense of community in certain areas, depending on where you live. And where we live, there is a strong sense of community. We can't, that's priceless to me. But you want to fly back to where your original home was? That's probably going to be pretty pricey, between not just the airline tickets, but chances are wherever you live, unless you're living again in the city. So you have 2 major airports. You have Portland and Bangor. So if you're living anywhere else, you're going to have some drive time, and sometimes it's a couple hours. It's 2 hours for us easily to Bangor, and it's several hours to Portland, which has the better prices flying in and out. However, by the time you figure in gas or hotels and stuff like that, you might as well just go back out of Bangor again. Bangor has less, there's more direct flights out of Portland. So, I mean, these are the strangest things that you don't think about when you're getting ready to move here. You think, maybe like we did. First of all, when we moved here, it had nothing to do with COVID. We were moving pre-COVID. So it took us longer to get here because in California, we had some problems with closing on our first house. So it just took a little longer, and we ended up moving during the very beginning of COVID. So we were really quite fortunate in the price of the house that we bought. Now, wouldn't happen. People always say, oh, the cost of heating and stuff like that's high here. For us, that's an understatement. Again, after living in the state of California, where we thought it was really high there with PG&E. We had another power company, or I did when I lived up in Mount Shasta, and it was out of Colorado, I believe. I can't remember the name of it, but it was so much more reasonable. I couldn't understand why one power company is so expensive and the other one's not, and it's the same state. I don't understand that. Now, I probably won't, because I'm not going to sit down and figure it out. However, here, same problem. Our power bill for our home is over $600 a month. There's two of us here. So take that into consideration. And don't even get me started on heating besides just having the power, because we have fuel, we have propane, and we've had wood, and we've had pellets and oil. There's that's the other thing. There's different heating sources here that you don't typically have in every state, that we didn't even know existed. So do your homework. When you go to buy a house, understand what it is that you're buying. And again, it's off the charts high. It's so high. I can't even begin to explain. This is not a place for everybody. If you were born here, if your family goes back generations, and your home's paid for and your heating sources are multiple, so you have an option on whether you want to do wood or oil or propane, whatever's cheapest, electric. If the power goes out, and it will go out, if you're not living on solar, living off the grid, if you don't have other kind of backups, first of all, you want a Generac. You do not want to be in the dead of winter at night when the snow's up to your kneecaps, and that's being conservative, and have to go outside to get a generator started. No, you're going to want a Generac, and even then, those have to be serviced, so there's an extra cost there. The Generac itself is not cheap. I don't get paid for advertising for them. There's so many costs that need to be taken into consideration, and then what are you going to do for work? Are you going to go to school here? Housing is a major crisis here, it seems like. There's just not enough homes, especially for renting. If you're going to rent, definitely make sure you have a place to move into before you get here, because renting is so often not an option. Like where we're at, if I wanted to, within a 20-mile radius, I'm not going to find anything to rent, and maybe even further, maybe 50. I mean, it's just not going to happen. And so, there's and then commuting. Wherever you live, you're going to have to commute. Our doctor commutes 45 minutes to get to work from where he's at. Take that back, an hour and 15 minutes from where he's at, one way. There's just, so you want to move to Maine. All right. Well, we definitely want to welcome you here, and, there's more to there. Okay, so the people are wonderful. You are going to get some that aren't very welcoming to outsiders. When you're here, you are considered a transplant. Unless you were born here, forget it. You're just not from here, and that's just the way it is. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's okay. I guess Alaska has like Chichakas. For the first year that you're there, you're a Chichaka. Yeah, for here, it's not the first year, it's the rest of your life. You're a transplant. Let's see. And some people are warm to outsiders and some are not. It takes time. It takes time to build up trust, because until about 5 years ago, the fluctuation just wasn't that strong for people to move into Maine. And when we got here, they said, why are you moving in? All of us are wanting to try to get out. We're trying to move out. We heard that so many times, but it has changed. I know that we've posted, we have this, I have this site here. I share it with my husband now too. We're loving and living Maine, because we do love it here. But it's not going to be for everybody. It really isn't. So I just wanted to give you some truths. there's just some things to. I'm seeing more and more YouTube channels of people moving to Maine, and oh my gosh, oh, I feel sorry for some of these people. They're going through their homes that are well over 100 years old. They have no idea the problems they're going to encounter, and they have no idea what they're even looking at. They're videotaping and they're going, oh, I think this was used for this and this was used for that. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. And your yard that has very little wood and that's your only heating source right now, unless you plug in a space heater or something, you better get to chopping. It's just, oh my gosh, but live and learn. That's what we do. We move where the grass is greener on the other side, and we came here for a reason. Our reason was different. That was so different. It had nothing to do with COVID. It had nothing to do even with just planning on retiring here. In the first place, my husband wanted to move here. He'd never even been to the state of Maine, and I'd been here once. And when I was here, it was for a weekend, a long weekend, and that was down in Portland and Scarborough area. So I hadn't even been up. We're down east. A lot of people are moving to northern Maine because it's still less expensive there, but it's less expensive there for a reason. You are going to get a ton of snow, and it's going to last a lot longer. The other thing, folks, these realtors and stuff that I keep seeing on TV and on YouTube, they're showing you coastal Maine because coastal Maine is more expensive, so they get a higher commission. And I'm not saying every realtor, but I'm seeing a lot of that, and they're showing you the areas that are already heavily populated as well. Like when they start talking about Bar Harbor, oh my gosh, not a chance. We live close to there, and I couldn't be happier because you know what? We're getting the same climate. We've got the same beauty, but we do not have all the people. Oh my gosh, the people that are there. I hate driving anywhere near Ellsworth, Bar Harbor. Please, it takes forever to get through, because it's just so congested with vacationers. You bet you want a vacation here, you definitely go see Acadia. But again, you go a little bit further up the road, you're going to see a lot of the same stuff. So, but then the national park itself is, that's a whole, I guess, I don't want to take away from somebody coming here to vacation because it's beautiful and it's worth going to see Bar Harbor one time. Is it worth moving there? Maybe to you. Maybe to you. Not to us. No way. We'll move a couple of miles up the road a little bit. And let's see. Oh, something that I'm still kind of baffled by. They don't show a lot of the mountains. There's some wonderful ski resorts here. People that like to ski, especially when you come from the West Coast, and there's places that are so popular and you got to wait forever to go snowboarding or skiing. And this is according to my husband, because I don't really snowboard or ski, but I have gone there with him. Speaking of the mouth, he's back there yelling at the dog because just playfully, of course. Anyway, he couldn't get over how easier it is and how quicker it is to get on lifts and such in Maine, because I don't know, it just is. But so that's wonderful. You want to come here, come during the winter too, because you might enjoy it. Prices again in those areas are far higher than anywhere else in the state of Maine. If you want to be in the mountains and you want to be near the ski lifts, if you want to be on the coast, and you want to overlook the ocean, just like any other state, that has those options, it's going to be much, much higher. And then anywhere in between, there's some really nice places in between, fertile lands to grow a little bit more or raise some animals and such. There's, just do your research, folks. Just do your research. Please don't just come here on a whim, because it might not work out for you. It might, but I think that you're gonna be shocked by the prices. You have to learn to hunt. People here, it's very common for them to get their tags so that they can, they want to either, you get your hunting license and you go for moose and you go for deer, turkey. It's just, it's part of the supplement. You know, you get your meat for the winter, for the year, and then there's your seafood. You got your lobster, and other fish. You know, of course, yeah, there's haddock's really popular here. Springtime, you have a lot of root vegetables. That's what grows here. If you're going to want a watermelon or cantaloupe, those kind of things, not happening. Not likely. I mean, I'm sure you can start it off in a greenhouse and it can be done. But to be successful, it's going to be some very, very standard, very few, because we're zone 4 through 6, depending on what part of Maine you are in. You know, get the A's and B's in there. And it's cold. It's cold. So you're gonna want to know what grows here, vegetable wise. You're gonna want to supplement your food sources because the prices are really expensive. And when you do buy berries and groceries in the store, over and over and over again, I look at dates and it just doesn't matter. They just spoil so quickly because they've had to travel to get to the store, and then they just don't last on the shelf there. By the time you get them home, it's a couple days in the refrigerator, they're gone. So you almost have to buy daily, and even when you go daily, you're still getting yesterday's produce, and it's just, those things have not been fun, and the flavor's not there in the fruit and vegetable either. You know, you get a banana. I've had like 2 bananas in 5 years that tasted like bananas. Just because it takes so long for certain things to get here. I don't know if it's I don't know what it is, but it's just not the same. I've ordered, or not ordered, I'd go in the grocery store and I'd get, say, Santa Rosa plums, you know, true and dear to my heart from back home. There's no way I can ripen that to taste right. It just does not happen. It's not going to happen with anything. So, on the bright side, cranberries grow here. Blueberries, these are really great antioxidants. Acorn squash, any kind of squash, those kind of things grow fabulous here. Tomatoes, you're going to have to get plants that were already started for you unless you have a greenhouse. And again, the flavor's just not quite the same as if, say, again, back to California or Arizona or those places, Texas, you know, there's, and watermelons, deep south. Watermelons aren't bad because, I mean, those are shipped in. There's something about the way they keep their flavor. They're not too bad. What else can I tell you folks, you know, that are considering moving to the state of Maine? You know, definitely come here first, and I would highly recommend coming here different seasons. Now, most people don't have that much patience, time, or money to just do that. But when you go and you want to buy some property and you haven't walked it in the fall or the spring when it might be wetter, that's the other thing. You never know what's behind you. You got to keep an eye out for what might be behind you. There are bear here too. We have brown bear. So if you haven't walked that property and you haven't seen it, you know, you want to see it without snow. You want to see it with snow. You want to see it after the snow. Where is all that water draining to? You know, are you in an area where it floods? Because a lot of these areas are beginning to flood more because of the global warming. Whether you believe in it or not makes no difference. The stats there that the temperature is rising, and it's rising in the oceans, which now we're getting a lot of green crab or something like that along those lines. Things are changing. Have you ever had a fiddlehead? They're fabulous. I never had one until I moved to the state of Maine. There's a lot of wonderful people. There's a lot of wonderful food. There's a lot of wonderful tradition. There's just, this place is jam-packed with so much that's fabulous, without a doubt. But if you're not ready, especially money-wise, folks, if you're not ready money-wise, it's going to be a slap in the face. It's going to be a hard slap of reality. So Just putting it out there. All right, folks. If you have any questions, email me at mecalgal@gmail.com, or this channel is my One Traveling On email account. You can message me. I'll answer anything that I can for you. I'm more than happy to. I am more than happy to set you up with a fabulous realtor. Let me tell you about this realtor. I'm going to shout out to Rosa Collins. Okay, she's with Berkshire Hathaway. This woman, knowing, because she is born and raised in Maine, what we were up against, when we flew in here with, we bought a house that was already furnished. And the people that lived here were kind enough to leave some food and stuff behind too for us. She knew what we were going to be up against. We didn't even have a vehicle yet. And we were almost 2 hours. Well, we were an hour and 15 minutes from a place where we could buy a vehicle. And guess what? There's no Uber here. Oh, that's another thing. Even the Bangor airport, you get in there certain hours, you're not going to get an Uber. It's not going to happen. Or a Lyft. So it's just different. It's so different here. But anyway, this woman was kind enough, and we will always use her, and we're actually looking to move, possibly move again. Staying in the state of Maine, but we're thinking about moving from here because this property here, the home, is just way too much for my husband and myself. But she drove from her home here, which it was hours, and then she had to drive back. She didn't have to because we offered she could stay the night, but she had to get back for other reasons. But she drove here with a flatbed, took me to go shopping. She made sure that we had pellets at the time for the pellet stove, and she knew what I was going to need in order to survive without a vehicle for a while until we got things situated. So we got a bunch of food because we were here in the dead of winter. We moved in December. It wasn't supposed to be that way because that's the other thing, folks. Things don't always work out the way as planned. So you think you're moving here in May or June, but it might be December before you get here, and you are in the thick of things. Plus, it was COVID. I can tell you a whole nother nightmare story, but I don't have time for that here, and you're not going to want to listen to it right now. So, but Rosa Collins, she went above and beyond. She truly did, to make sure we were safe and that we had everything that we needed for the time being to get through some major cold mornings, noons, and nights here, and to make sure we had food. And so I can't recommend her enough. Okay, you guys, talk to you later. Happy travels.